time is 7:30. Our first order of business is the pledge to the flag. Please rise and join me. And if you would all humor me, please, in honor of September 11th, and of course all the suffering that's happening in Texas and Florida, if we could just have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. All right, will the clerk please take the roll?
Council Vice President Collins.
Here.
Councilman DeCruz.
Here.
Councilwoman Gledhill.
Here.
Councilman Veely.
Here.
4 members present. Council President Healy is absent.
Item 4 on the agenda is the approval of minutes of previous meetings. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve agenda item 4A, B, and C.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. Item 5 is the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously as well. And that brings us to item 6 on the agenda, licenses. 6A is a resolution granting a Class F 19-hour beverage license to the Easter Seals of Rhode Island, 213 Robinson Street in Wakefield. This is for an event to be held on Sunday, November 19th, 2017, from 10 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. under a tent in the parking lot at 456 Main Street in conjunction with the Muse Tavern Gear and Beer 6.9K Road Race. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Jen Martin, and I'm the events manager for Easter Seals, Rhode Island. And I'm here tonight representing the Muse Tavern in their 6.9K road race that happens every year at the Muse Tavern for the past 18 years. This year, the event we're hoping is on November 19th to start on Wright Ave and end in front of the Muse, where there'll be a party and raffle afterwards. We're hoping for about 1,500 runners and, a good spectator turnout. So.
Right. So how do people get involved in there?
I'm sorry? How do people get involved?
Yeah.
You can register through the Easter Seals events page or the Muse Tavern events page. So.
Jen, I know this is one of your biggest fundraisers that you guys have for the year, and I know you recently closed the first floor of where you are in your offices. Any hopes of expanding your services again based on fundraisers like this?
Personally, I would hope to, but I don't think it's going to happen regarding the pediatric outpatient program. So, no, sorry.
It's great to see the community support for events like this, so I hope that it continues and maybe there'll be some potential out there for some more.
Sounds good.
I think 6A is in regards to just the 19-hour license. Is that right? Or do you want to combine these, or?
That's correct. The first application is by Easter Seals.
Right.
For the Class F license.
And sort of the same event.
Exactly. It's the same exact event. It just starts after the road race. So the road race is at 12 o'clock, and then the event would start immediately following and be over around 4:30 with the beer and food.
Are you here for 6B as well? Are you going to?
Yes.
Okay. Take them together then.
Happy to be here for both on the same night.
All right, any other questions?
I'll make a motion. Mike, do we need to do these separately, or? Sure. I'll make a motion to approve agenda items 6A and B.
Second.
So moved. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Good luck. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
We hope to see you at the event.
I'll cheer you people on, but I'm not running.
Thank you.
Item 6C is a resolution granting a Class F 19-hour beverage license to Southern Rhode Island Chamber of Commerce. This is for the Taste of Southern Rhode Island event to be held on Thursday, October 19th, 2017, from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. under a tent in the field at Clark Farms over on Commodore Perry Highway. Ms. Brenda,
Hello.
welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. So this is the 6th annual Taste of Southern Rhode Island. It is our biggest fundraiser of the year. We are very excited to be over at Clark Farms because we can finally grow the event where we were very limited in the Peacedale Mill. Originally, the plan was the greenhouse, but that was a no-go from the fire marshal. So now we're under an 8,000 square foot tent, which will be beautiful, plenty of room for everybody and plenty of room for us to grow as well.
Rain or shine?
Rain or shine, yes.
You said an 8,000 square foot tent?
Yes, it is.
How many tickets you got this year?
We're selling 700 tickets this year,
Oh my goodness. How many did you sell last year?
around 550.
That is awesome.
Well,
Is it almost sold out, or are we?
Still plenty of time to buy your tickets, don't you worry.
It's always a great event. So excited to see you guys expanding.
Thank you.
do I hear a motion?
I make a motion we approve item 6C.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that motion.
All right.
And as part of the discussion, I will recuse as a board member of the Southern Rhode Island Chamber.
Well then, all in favor, say aye.
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 And by a motion of 3-0 with one recusal, that motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Item 6D is a resolution granting a miscellaneous permit to conduct the Matunic Half Marathon / 5K road race on Sunday, May 6th, 2018 at 8 a.m. to the Ocean State Multisport.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. My name's Gary. I'm from Ocean State Multisport. I'm the race director. We're looking to have our half marathon again. We had it last year, and I believe everything went well. I didn't hear any complaints, so I'm assuming it went well. The 5K does start at the school, and it does take a left on Moonstone, not a right. I don't know where that map came from, but it does take a left. It goes about halfway down. They make a U-turn and go back to the school. The half marathon actually goes to Charlestown Beach, and they turn around at the beach and come back to the school. Charlestown was approved already from Chief Allen, and I submitted all the paperwork into the state and everything, and I got permission to use the school. I've already gone over the courses and stuff with the traffic committee. The only thing that we're changing this year is we're going to start a half hour earlier because we noticed that around 11 o'clock there was a lot of cars going down Matunic to have breakfast and stuff, so we decided that if we make it a half hour earlier, we would bypass all that. And also the church in Charlestown let out at a certain time, and we didn't know that. And there's only a right turn only out of that parking lot. So we decided to change the time of the race to bypass all of them, so that way it was much safer.
Thank you for being so accommodating. Any questions?
I make a motion that we approve item 60, subject to the execution of a hold harmless agreement indemnifying the town, issuance of a certificate of insurance, naming the town as an additional insured for the event, and in the amount specified by the town, approval by the Rhode Island Department of Transportation, and subject to any conditions set by the town's Transportation and Traffic Review Committee.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
6E is a resolution granting a victualling license to CC's, doing business as CC's Cafe and Bakery of Kingstown Road in Wakefield.
Thank you very much for having me. My name is Mike Harrington. I'm here representing family business. We're starting up at CC's Cafe and Bakery at 682 Kingston Road, Wakefield.
Where is that exactly, by the way?
Excuse me?
Where approximately is that?
It's in the Benny's parking lot, right in between Yankee Travel and Subway.
Okay.
We're going to be open 7 days a week. We plan on doing Monday through Saturday. We're going to be open 6:30 to 4:30 or 4 o'clock. And then Sunday we're going to do 6:30 to 12. It's a 1,400 square foot unit. We're going to be doing breakfast sandwiches, pastries, and different lunch items throughout the week.
Will you be making your pastries in-house, or?
Yes.
Do you have experience in this type of business? Do you have any other businesses?
Well, my wife does. I don't have any other businesses other than a family. But my wife's been doing a lot of it. She has some clients, parties, stuff like that. So we're going to give it a shot. We ran into a good opportunity, a good spot. We think that it'll work out well. So the last month or so, we've been in there working very hard, cleaning the place up. We have the health department coming in Thursday, I believe around 12:30, and we plan on opening, if everything's in order, on the 18th, which is Monday, I believe.
That's great. And you guys are local here, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so awesome. That sounds wonderful.
Yep. All our suppliers will be local businesses.
Great. I make a motion we approve item 6E.
Second.
Very good. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And that motion carries unanimously.
Good luck to you.
Congratulations.
All right. Thank you very much.
6F is a resolution granting a dance license to SWT LLC, doing business as Saltwater Tavern of 195 Main Street. This is subject to the approval by the police chief. How are you doing? Just state your name for the
Scott Sogard with Saltwater Tavern. Yes, we're seeking a dance permit. We've had entertainment. We've done a variety of different, mostly acoustic. Well, they're not. They all plug in, but mostly one or two guitar playing entertainers on various nights midweek. We've done Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I don't think we've done anything Sunday yet. And we also we host a variety of clientele in general. We have a meeting space that we use upstairs, an overflow dining area that has an open area that we can turn into any kind of small event we like. We've done rehearsal dinners, small weddings, we've done Christmas parties, and we've also hosted various dance deals. We have a karaoke where people have been dancing, and we didn't seem to have a problem. And we're also looking to have the local university crowd come in at least, sometime. We did this a few times last year. We didn't seem to have any. I believe we did 8 Wednesdays, and one Wednesday there was an issue. And we don't discriminate. We do country, blues, country, 80s music, new. We're not looking to be one particular segment of business. I think in a small town that's getting to the point of being overbuilt in restaurants, especially with this South County Commons, Main Street struggles, and it's a reality that there's just not that much traffic on Main Street. Possibly being on the end of it may be an issue, but we're looking to not discriminate and have people have a private and public event with live and program music. I did speak with the chief. He was nice enough to take some time, and we went over this, and he and I both spoke about possibly having a police detail. I wasn't aware of the cost at that time, and I also made it clear at that time that I had already contacted a recommended seasoned security firm to work along with our staff. And I told him about my background, how I've owned nightclubs, very large nightclubs, and I don't think we need to hire separate people. And they would come in, and we were aware of our doors, and and where our points of exposure are. Our building has been completely remodeled. We totally gutted the building, and so what we have now is we're completely fire compliant with the new sprinkler systems. All the floors and walls were literally overbuilt. Floor joists were doubled up. Insulation between the floors was just overdone. Our windows are double pane windows that you really can't hear anything out them as long as they're closed. Now, we did have a time on one night where we had a noise complaint from a neighbor diagonally, and that's because one of the windows was inadvertently left open. We immediately closed it, so we promised to close those windows. We're not at all against a police detail. We think that would be fine if necessary, but given the size, this is not a huge venue. This place isn't that big. That room upstairs isn't that large, and even downstairs is kind of narrow. But people do occasionally dance, and sometimes, you'd ask yourself if it is actually dancing that they're doing. But I know I don't want to get into appearing like this is a Footloose sequel here, but we want to try and not restrict people in the way they move around inside the building. And we've had entertainment, so this is not an appeal for an entertainment license in any way. So there are restrictions here that we have that other people in the state don't have. We don't have a 2 o'clock license, and our other towns and cities do. We've complied with everything else that we've needed to do with regards to parking. And parking doesn't seem to be a problem. It's a different world, and they're all coming to the place now with Uber. Not all of them, but the vast majority, they're just being dropped off and picked up. And a lot of the noise on the road is just them getting out of their cars and going in and going out. And we'll have somebody out, we'll have a staff member out policing being a valet, basically, making sure people leave quickly. That particular night we had a problem that gentleman had the flu, and that did cause us problems because the cars would sort of build up. They weren't moving along fast. So we had a little bit of our own traffic issue. But there was no other traffic on Main Street. Completely dead, nothing going on. It just was a ghost town, and it is a ghost town. Most nights after 9 o'clock, it's a ghost town. And so there isn't an issue with parking anyway, and with flow. It's just a matter of the noise. And then on the noise, having done this in other places, usually there's a decibel level that's an acceptable decibel level. And I don't believe there is one, and I don't think we want to be subject to just an objective, that's too loud. So I would ask that maybe we establish a par decibel level that other surrounding towns might have adopted, so we have an objective, not just an opinion on what is loud. So that would be one comment I would make.
Is the dancing limited to the second floor? I mean, is that what you're asking for?
We've had people dancing to country songs downstairs. I'm from the belief that let the customer decide when they would like to break into dance, but I'm in full agreement with not outside. I'm after the least amount of restrictions and to not be managed arbitrarily by one particular night because one guy didn't show up to park the cars outside. Let the customer decide. We'll stick to the noise level. We'll have this security firm. We are still looking to be a night where we're a family restaurant, but everyone is gone by the time this particular group is where I think everyone's concerned about. By 9 o'clock, it's dead, the whole town. So they're coming out when everyone else. It doesn't interfere with our dinner business. And it would be a great help to us.
Steve, I had a question. Who else in town has a dance license? Is there any other business that does that we know of? Other than the Ocean Mist? Yeah, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I was just curious. I thought this was just for the second floor, and I don't know if it changes things if you also wanted to include the first floor. I want to make sure that we do this properly.
Well,
I think what he's saying is, though, after 9 o'clock, the traffic is... Are people still eating at 9 o'clock downstairs?
Pretty
or?
much not. The only time we get people eating at 9 o'clock is when they come out to eat and do what you'd call a supper club thing, where you're specifically arriving later so that you can enjoy the entertainment. And we have had people stand up and, do the two-step to even downstairs. We move a couple tables. So we could restrict it. Our intent is not to take all the furniture out and turn into a complete full-blown dance club. We have a viable kitchen. We're open 7 days a week, and there's a time when the building is not doing business, and this is a good time. In addition, I would like to say that, having all these young people, they're all over 21, and they all dress way better than when I was in college, I'll tell you that. It's a whole different world, the way people are dressing now. It used to be sweatshirts, and now they're really dressing up. They're being dropped off in a lot of cases, and they arrive in groups with designated drivers. I don't ever remember doing that. So they're very well behaved, and I guess I'm just wondering, they're here, they're supporting the community. University of Rhode Island is in this town. Why should they all have to get in their cars and drive to another town? Why would we want to do that? That 1% tax is coming right here. Why would we want to then spook them all over to Narragansett and all that? I just don't get it. We've got a well-built building, and we'll do our very best to manage it properly.
Bob, if we approve this tonight, would it be good until November 30th? Is that correct?
Our license year runs between December 1st and November 30th.
Okay.
So any license that's issued today would expire on November 30th.
And you would be amicable to the police detail, or is that something?
Well, right now it's a cost. It's quite a bit beyond our budget right now. If we were to get to the point where that were absolutely necessary and we could not do this with this far less priced.
Would you be okay with having the police detail up until renewal time comes up again?
Well, it's kind of critical for us to be watching our costs right now. And this police detail, the company that I just, they're the ones that do all the URI. They take classes in this stuff if you read their bios. I honestly think that in the interest of just autonomy and let us decide what we need as a business, I think that we are watching our costs. In addition, the university hires them. If you look at the events they've done, they do all the frat stuff, the Greek week. They do it. They're real good at this. They've got all the equipment, and they're pros. They're doing all the. They're doing East Greenwich. They do Blue. They do McKinley. This is how it works.
When you say equipment, what kind of equipment are you talking about?
Well, they come in. Some of them have scanning devices for the licenses. They have people specifically trained for that. And this, I'm taking nothing away from the police department. It's just the number of people I can have from their firm compared to one for the cost. And as I said, we're not a huge venue. This isn't Ultra, the nightclub in Providence, where you can afford to have that.
No, and I don't think any of us doubt the abilities of the security group that you're hiring. It sounds like they're very capable. But as far as I'm concerned with all the information that we have, we look to the staff to make recommendations to us for these sorts of permits and licenses. And, one of the suggestions that came through was that you have a police detail present. So I'm not sure how that...
Well, if this license is re-reviewed in November, obviously we'll have all eyes on it, especially the police. They'll be all over this. And if we find that we are not pulling it off, then we'll need one of their professionals to help us out.
I see the chief sitting there behind you. Did you come up there so you could speak to us?
Good evening. Joe Jabra, Chief of Police.
So, Chief, were you aware of this
No.
security group?
Mr. Sogard did mention that while we were talking, but there was not an agreement to hire a security firm on our behalf. I pushed for the detail officer. I think, excuse me, a uniform officer there would be better than security people.
I think the main concern that we have is the uniformed police officer reports to the police chief. If there's an incident or an issue that needs to be defined, it needs to come through rank to the chief to be able to, for us to be able to get a better handle on what took place. My understanding that in your meeting with this gentleman, there was an agreement to hire an additional police officer.
Yes.
For that. And I want to make it clear, what we're looking at is the Wednesday night event. What Mr. Sogard has indicated is that he wants to have college events on Wednesday nights. This was the night that we had difficulty in the past. We have reviewed the application from a staff perspective and really think there's 7 issues that need to be defined. One is that staff needs to be at each of the doors so that they are checking IDs, so that no one can enter the facility without proving that the age requirement. That's the responsibility of the proprietor. Whether or not somebody's out sick with the flu, there's still a duty to perform in terms of being able to identify that all people are properly in the establishment. Secondly, the music level is something which we would work on a day-to-day basis on a Wednesday night to determine whether there's complaints. If there's complaints, we'd have discussions with the gentleman as to what the noise level should be. There should be no activities outside, and it should be the responsibility, if there's loitering occurring with patrons, that they're asked to vacate the area. That would also be the police department's responsibility to ensure that we did not have a situation where there was loitering or difficulty on the street. We also were assuming, and maybe incorrectly, that the Wednesday night event was on the second floor, and that the capacity of the second floor was the controlling tenant as far as people getting to the second floor. Not to the capacity of the building, but to the capacity of the second floor, if that's where the music was. We said to the council that we think that we're not going to object to the license being issued as long as those characteristics are incorporated into the approval. It'll also give the proprietor an opportunity to be able to demonstrate proper performance in terms of the management of those Wednesday night events. No one's concerned with a wedding or a rehearsal party being held on the second floor. Concern is the Wednesday night events. And we want to ensure that the public health and safety is protected, not just to the people frequenting the establishment, but also to the neighborhood in general. And I am not supportive of other than a police officer being assigned that reports directly to our department to advise on any issues that they see that warrant attention by the police department.
So we know that the we know that the upstairs is a capacity of approximately 120. What's the capacity?
I'm not sure what that capacity
Okay.
is. I think it was around 120, but it's based on the square footage that the fire department sets. So whatever that number is the number that would need to be managed by the proprietor and by those persons hired to be able to check IDs.
I guess the only reason I brought that up is because if you add the first floor to it, I just wanted to get an idea of what the entire building could hold.
114 upstairs.
Okay.
Was it 114?
Yes.
No idea on downstairs, right?
I'm not sure.
But again, the issue here is that it's not the downstairs if in fact the music is on the second floor. And what we don't want to do is to have overcapacity on the second floor using capacity from the first floor. So
That's why I was asking that question.
It needs to be just what that room can hold based on its square footage determined by the fire department.
I think it.
Who's asking?
If you could you come to the microphone? Sorry.
The downstairs is empty as well, and we are fully set downstairs. Why would we want to then restrict that to just upstairs?
Because fire safety code is based on room occupancy.
We would maintain that.
It's based on the square footage of the room. If in fact the second floor has a limitation of 114 people, just because you have the capacity for 120 people on the first floor doesn't mean that you can put 220 people on the second floor.
No, we have 2 clickers, one for each floor. We have the staff. We've been doing this. This isn't a first-time thing.
I disagree with you. I'm just simply saying that if you're
but you're
going
trying to
have
micromanage
music,
it.
You're not listening. If you're going to have music on the second floor, you are limited to the second floor's square footage capacity in terms of the number of people that can occupy that space.
You're saying I've got to hire a police detail with 100 capacity. Have you done the numbers on that? You figured out how much it costs per person for me to have that police detail? Well, I have, and all I'm saying is I'm all for the police detail. But now you want to restrict it to a small room upstairs.
No, I think what he's saying is that we want to make sure that we can manage the sheer number of people upstairs versus downstairs. Am I incorrect in?
Yes, I mean, we have no objection.
We stick to our fire code.
Right.
We have people at the back door, the front door. We have the people. We have it fully managed. I don't understand where this.
This is a non-issue. What we're talking about is just that there's a limitation on the second floor.
Right.
There's no limitation on the first floor up to the capacity that the first floor will
Yeah.
hold.
So what we're saying is that you could have 200 people in there, right? But our concern would be
Each floor has
making
to
sure that you don't have 200 upstairs
Right.
with
No,
only
we're saying the
114
same
capacity.
thing. Yeah, we're saying the same thing.
Right.
But I think what I was hearing Steve say is only on the second floor for this permit. Now, we have an entertainment permit. We have
Well, that's where the music would be, but it doesn't mean that people couldn't be downstairs.
No, we
I
have
guess.
people downstairs at the same time on that same night playing live. So now they can't dance? This is like Footloose. No, we have 120 downstairs. We have 114 upstairs. Totally separate businesses, separate kitchens, separate bar, separate plumbing, separate bathrooms, sprinklers everywhere. So we have 2 businesses, 2 rooms. And we're saying, why can't we use the capacity with all the restrictions we've met with fire? We had to cut across the street and put a big new pipe in for the fire, for the sprinkler system. We spent hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in that building, like over $1 million. And now we can't use it. I just want to make sure we're saying the same thing, that upstairs, we're fine, capacity 114, we will not go over that. Downstairs, capacity 120, we will not go over that, and we will assure that. But now to be micromanaged as to what's going on in each floor.
I don't think we're trying to micromanage that. No. We're just trying to make sure that we have enough, that you have control over the sheer number of people going up and down the stairs.
We do. We have 2 people actually at the front door. We've got one at the top, one with the clicker. We do have that, and I'd be happy to have you come by and see how it goes. But we've got a clicker for upstairs, a clicker for downstairs. We maintain the 114 upstairs. We maintain the 120 downstairs. And all of this is, if we're specifically talking about the Wednesday night, people, that's all after 9 o'clock. So it's 4 hours a week. And then the rest of the week, we do have some live music downstairs. Sometimes we intermittent live music upstairs. And we had 1 problem out of 8 times we were open. You had no complaints until this one gentleman that we wouldn't let in, he was underage, caused a disturbance outside. And I understand the chief's concern on that.
All right. Any further questions for the applicant? Or for anybody else?
No. I think that when something like this comes forward, we get guidance from the staff, and staff, at least for this initial, if we award this license, staff has recommended some restrictions, and my feeling is to go slow first. And I wouldn't be opposed to the restrictions that staff, and listen, we come up here, and these people are at it all day, every day, and we take their advice. We do it for this license. We do it for a number of issues. And it's a pretty short duration to the end of November, and let's see how it goes. I mean, I would trust staff on this.
Yeah, if we make it to November with no incident, I mean, could we revisit some of the recommendations that you made, Steve?
Certainly. I want to clear, we have not been advised, or I have not been advised of any music on the first floor. I'm not trying to prevent music on the first floor. Our focus is on the Wednesday night URI college-age crowd that's being attracted. And we're looking to have proper management structure in place for that. It's not for the other times.
We have music booked on Wednesday night on the first floor through the end of the year, just about. Now, it's a open mic night, so it's a blues night. And that usually ends a little bit earlier, but we already have music on the first floor. So Wednesday they come in, they eat, they listen to the band, and...
God, every time I try to help you, you go off on a tangent. What I'm saying is, we're not objecting to what you do on the first floor because you've got tables, you've got a bar area. If there's dancing, it's going to be very limited. What we're concerned with is the second floor with a disc jockey up there, or whatever they call them today, and control as to who gets up there and how many get up there at a given time. And as they arrive, what's the controls, and as they leave, what are the controls? That's all we're trying to do.
Okay.
Joe, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Well, I agree with Steve that our concern is the crowds, and sometimes everyone shows up at once, and it's very difficult for them to check everyone's ID when they crowd in like that. So our concern is the crowds, the identification, underage drinking, and the crowds inside, and then when the crowds leave, the broken bottles and the littering. We would like to have that checked by them. So that's our concern: crowds entering and leaving, and underage. That normally comes with the college crowds. Yep. Not to pick on them, but that's normally what happens.
Yes, and not to compare apples and oranges, but I think I've been to the Ocean Mist on certain nights where they do have a police detail there as well. I don't know how they decide when they need one or if we put those restrictions in place, but I have seen that there before.
Scott, when the club is over or dancing is over, I remember being a young person, being in downtown Providence. Everyone spills out into the street at the same time. Yeah. Is there a way to manage that so they don't all come out at the same time?
We do the best we can. They like to linger. So what we do is we play with the lights. We'll drop the music. We try and encourage some of them to move downstairs in conversation. But I had a place in the Cape which was in a non-conforming use, and we were surrounded by residents, and we would speak to the guests when they left, and we said, "We are in a residential neighborhood. Please, respect our guests." And we were there for 18 years, and we did this. The exit is really important because that's when everybody's, "Hey, let's go meet at Charlie's house," and they'll just yell it out, and let's all go there. And we do try and have them calm down, leave in groups rather than all at once. And in the event that we had, the disruption, most of the disruption was caused by, we were inundated prior to midnight, and everyone was forced out. They just all ran out. And then that compounded the problem because we were over-managing. And we weren't letting them naturally leave through the control of music, lighting, calming them down. You don't want them all. You don't want people to all leave at once. So you're right.
Scott, the other comment I'll make to you is I think historically, if you look, this council has been very business-friendly, but we do need to consider the rest of the town and your neighborhood.
Well, we're on Main Street, and I'm trying to think our neighborhood. Let's talk about that for a second. you know.
I think there's a residential property right behind you, no? Above the hair salon? I think that's an apartment.
Yep, they come in. Yeah, they're customers, and I don't think they've complained about anything. And we've had support from our neighbors, all of them except one. And let's talk about their use sometime.
All right, let's not get too far astray. Any other questions of anybody? Do I hear a motion on this?
I mean, personally, I think as long as we have the police detail there for now, as well as, would you still have security at the same time? Or
I probably would still have a couple of people, just abundance, just to make sure everything goes great.
Right.
And we'll have some people there. But we don't want to have slots unfilled. That's for sure. And that's all it is. It's a certain people have to be at certain points. And it's not that we're not dealing with 500 people. I think the OSHA misses a whole different game. It's up their capacities. I don't know what their capacity is, but far exceeds ours.
No, I just didn't want you to think that there's no police details anywhere else.
Yeah.
I think that we should approve this with the recommendations that Steve made and revisit this in November. And, I'm sure you're very capable and there'll be no incidents, and hopefully we'll be talking about how great it is. So I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing.
It's not even a public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've skipped ahead. I make a motion that we approve item 6EF. Thank you. With the provisions provided by town staff. Subject to approval by the police chief.
Second.
Very good. Any further discussion? No. So just let me, so this is good for both the first and second floor? Okay.
Yes, the only night we're looking for the police officer on the Wednesday night when we've got the university night.
Great.
And that police officer is going to be reviewing both first and second floor.
Yeah, that's fine.
Great.
Okay. Well then, all in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Item 7 is a public hearing being continued from our last meeting to consider an application for an amendment to the zoning map to change the zoning of a portion of Assessor's Plat 14, Lot 65, from open space conservation and recreation designation to R200 rural very low density, as shown on Exhibit 1 attached to your agenda. This parcel is located at 500 Waits Corner Road, and the application is by Nicholas Gorham.
Good evening. I'm Jane Grisenda. I'm not Nicholas Gorham, but I'm here on behalf of the applicant. Do you have any questions?
Sure.
We have a communication dated July 26, 2017, recommending approval of the requested zone map amendment and incorporating findings of fact, consistency with the comprehensive plan, and findings of fact, consistency with the purposes of zoning.
So if you want to give us just a quick overview of why you're here for the benefit of the public here, that would be great.
Okay, this property is located at 500 Waits Corner Road. It's currently zoned OS because it is an open space preservation. We would like it rezoned to R200. It's approximately a 4-acre parcel that we want to have rezoned at Plat 14, Lot 65. The purpose of the rezoning is the installation of a medium-scale solar energy system, which will consist of approximately 800 solar panels sized at 4 by 5.5 feet. So it's going to take up about an acre of the 4-acre parcel that we're going to have rezoned. This application has already gone in order to, they have an open space easement. It went before the State Properties Committee. They recommended approval. They're in favor of this. As the clerk just mentioned, the Planning Board has approved it. So we would like to have the zone changed so we can install this. It still has to obtain permission from the zoning board through a special use permit. which will allow for conditions and so forth to be placed on the use. So that is basically it.
Good, thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
It's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Is there anyone here from the public who would like to speak on this issue?
Good evening. John Ellis from Waits Corner Road. I'm sorry that I was not here, at the first part of this public hearing. I, so know that the town has recently created this new zoning for this purpose, and certainly I'm in favor of farms. I know climate change is important, and I know that the town has, been business friendly, but I guess I'm kind of catching up here on this, and I'm sorry that I wasn't more diligent in following this. So this is land that is open space. It is zoned open space for a reason. I mean, I am certainly in favor of existing properties that are zoned R200 to be able to move forward. But I would think that there would be a very high standard to take previously zoned open space conservation preservation land and change it. Now, I think what's before you is changing the zoning. It's not what the particular use that they have planned, because I would assume that R200 has multiple uses, either by right or by special permit. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So the idea that it would necessarily next or 5 years from now or something, just be for this particular use that was mentioned, to me that's kind of putting the wagon before the horse, just to make a joke about the farm here. But so I guess my question is, I understand that the ducks have been lined up here. There was a zone change, and now you all are probably moving forward. And I certainly don't want to stand in the way of change here. But I guess I do question, and I would expect you to have a very high standard to take open space preservation land that's already zoned that way. There's been public investment, I think, towards that. I'm not 100% sure on some of those details. But, and I would certainly like you to, take that into account.
Thank you.
If I could clarify one thing.
Yeah, sure.
We're talking about rezoning 200,000 square feet of the entire 73 acres.
Right, that I do understand.
And that area that is being rezoned is the area where the non-open space activities occur, where the house is located and any of the farm buildings that are there. That's the only area that's being rezoned. Everything else will stay in that open space, the open space requirement, because the development rights were sold on this property many years ago, and the entire parcel was zoned for the open space purpose, where it still had residential activities that were occurring or farming activities that were occurring on it. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. I believe that 5 acres was set aside for continued use for a residential purpose where the house is.
Okay, but that entire lot, as I understand it, is zoned open space preservation per what she said.
The entire parcel is zoned
Yes.
for the 73 acres. It'll go down to the 68 acres with that 5 acre, 200,000 square foot parcel taken out of it.
So if you adopt this, you're taking land that is, as I understand it, and perhaps I'm wrong, and I know there's some details here of open space preservation land, or you're saying there's 4 or 5 acres that didn't receive any public support to be made open space, and that have barns and other things needed for the farm, and now you're going to put, you say 1/4 of the land would be used for the solar panels. I guess But that's sort of a different question. I think it's important to think of your open space preservation. I think this town has had that as their highest goal and standard. We haven't created a lot of affordable housing. We haven't done other things, but we have protected a lot of land. And there's been local investment and state investment. And now, for perhaps well-intentioned ideas and goals, you are changing directions. You're saying, that we're going to do something different. But, I don't mean to dominate, sorry.
No, I don't disagree with what your thought process is there. I think that I think the town embraced open space for a long time, and I do think those other areas you mentioned suffered because of that. However, I do look at it a little bit differently in that we're allowing the people who are here and putting in this solar farm to generate a revenue. And when we support people who are in places like this, it's important to let them, to not overmanage and overgovern them. And we're talking about a very small piece of this, and if that helps them, stay where they are and also has the added benefit of offsetting energy use, that's something that I support. And when we had these public hearings where we had input from the community, we really put a lot of thought into how we can make sure these aren't eyesores, that they're not burdensome to the neighbors, and I think a lot of consideration went into that. So I understand a lot of what you said and where you're coming from, but I do look at it a little bit differently.
Yeah, so I wanted to confirm that the entire parcel is 73 acres. Only 68 of those acres are held under conservation easement by the state of Rhode Island. So the 5 acres that are left currently have the house and farm on them. The planning board was in favor of rezoning those 5 acres specifically to R200. Specifically, I think because R200 only really allows for residential use, single family or farm, or there's limited recreational use, but it's not it's not as if you'd take that 5 acres and then be able to put 4 more units on it. Just the 1 unit that currently exists, plus the solar that they've proposed. And the solar energy array would be classified as a medium scale, which we've talked about before, but would require, because it would produce more than 120% of the property's energy, would require a review as a land development project. So it would go through a full review, including a public hearing, before the planning board, and then it would also require a special use permit from the zoning board, which again requires a public hearing. So there is a sort of full vetting process for that solar energy system once it is proposed.
So yeah, I think this project has already jumped through a number of hoops getting by that state conservation committee. And as you heard, I think part of this farm forest and open space program allows, whether it's in South Kingstown or anywhere else in the state, to have auxiliary uses for certain portions of the land. Here in this case, it wouldn't just necessarily be for solar array, but they could build a big barn there, I would think. Anything to help with their farming activities. So I don't think we want to micromanage and stop them from doing what they really have a right to do in that portion of land. And if you have issues with, the siting of the system or what you want it to look like as a neighbor, you're welcome to attend those zoning board meetings and raise concerns there, certainly. But I think that's my take on it.
Yeah, I also think the planning department, planning board, put an awful lot of thought and effort into developing this system so that, as Chelsea said, it is very well vetted. The public has plenty of opportunity to give input, and I would be in favor of this.
Is there anyone else to comment on this from the public? Do I hear Mr. Brown? Sure. Yes, please.
I don't know if it's a question. I'll ask the question first. Do we have an ordinance on blocking sidewalks or parking on sidewalks. Where people, it's become commonplace in the town now.
I'm sorry, we're in the public hearing for the Cottrell. This will be public comments will be coming up.
I didn't listen to my old student. All right.
Okay.
I didn't listen to you either.
All right. Do I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And do I hear a motion on the item?
If you're looking to approve, the motion would be to approve public hearing 7A, and in connection therewith, that you adopt and incorporate as your own the recommendation of the Planning Board dated July 26th with regard to findings of fact and consistency of this zoning map amendment with the comprehensive plan and the findings of fact and consistency with zoning.
So moved.
Second.
Great. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that motion carries unanimously. And that brings us to item 8B, which is a communication dated August 25th from Joseph, sorry, I'm going to maul your last name, Jayobek, Executive Director, Welcome House of South County, requesting a waiver of their payment in lieu of taxes. For this year, due to the loss of the Community Development Block Grant funding, welcome, Joe.
Welcome, thank you. Joseph Jobak, Director of Welcome House. Appreciate this item being put on the agenda and giving you consideration. Also want to acknowledge Helen Drew, who's Board President, is also with me tonight. I really want to address it from two perspectives. One is the impact on Welcome House with the loss of Community Development Block Grant money, and the second perspective is the value of Welcome House to the town and what the tax impact would be. So with regard to the first, as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago when I was here, we were caught, as were most people, by surprise that Community Development Block Grant money was not going to be funded for South Kingstown or the other non-entitled communities. And we anticipated we were going to struggle through July and August and early September to pay bills because our first reimbursement from the Housing Community Development money did not come until the beginning of the second week of September. So we had a period of time where we had to make an adjustment. It's been a difficult one. We've managed to stay ahead of the expenses, but not by much. I had hoped when I was here a couple weeks ago that there might be a rainy day fund that the town could say, well, we've got this pot of money and it hasn't been committed to anybody, so we know the good work you're doing and we'll give you a little bundle. But I realized that that wasn't available, and because the town was also caught off guard as we were. So it was suggested to me that, well, if we can't find additional revenue from the town, is there a way that an expense that we would normally pay to the town could be waived for this year? So that's my second point. The second point is that a couple of months ago, we were granted a $10,000 human service grant by the town council. I think originally it was 8 and it was increased to 10. I think because of the value that you place on what we do. However, if Welcome House does pay the pilot, it reduces it to under $5,000, the net of that $10,000 reduced by the pilot. We still have to pay taxes on 1175 Kingstown Road, which we purchased a couple of months ago, of $2,562. We also pay taxes on garage that we have and car tax. So the net effect of that is to reduce it to about $2,100, and if you divide that by 12 months, it means that the town of South Kingstown would be contributing to Welcome House less than $200 a month for the services that we provide the town. And granted, we provide it for other towns as well. But I know that you value it more than $200. And the benefit to us at this particular point in time is immense, because it would enable us to meet our payroll without sweating with the next payment's going to come from. We know we have to readjust our fundraising. We are also, getting much more aggressive with grants. But as you know, those things, you send them out and you have really no control over when they come back. So respectfully, we're requesting that, we're not saying a perpetuity, and we still will pay the taxes on the 1175, the garage and the car, but we're asking that the pilot for this year only be waived. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Joe, how much money did you expect to get from the grants?
20,000 of operating from South Kingstown, about another 10,000 from Narragansett. And we had put in requests to some of the other towns as well. I think the total we were looking at was around 50. But South Kingstown specifically was about 20.
So I think you know where I stand on, of course, offering you any support that we can. But I just want to turn the table for a minute and say, every year we have organizations that we give humanitarian grants to that counter their grant with, oh, well, we do pay taxes on the property that we're offering services out of. So theoretically, every year we could get that argument from people that their taxes offset the grant that we're offering them. So what I would want to know is what steps are being taken to diversify where your fundraising is coming from, so that we know, come the spring when we're sitting here for the budget season, you're not going to say, well, now I need $25,000 from the town because I have to offset my pilot and, we didn't get CDBG funds, and you know what I mean?
Right, that's a fair question. So last week, I was down in Providence with Santander Bank. I took a picture with the bank president of a big $5,000 check. And then when I left the bank, I went back in. I said, wait a minute, though. I need the real check. They said, oh, we're going to direct deposit that. I said, oh, tomorrow? They said, no, October. So I have $5,000 coming, but again, it's one of those things that's delayed. I got a call today. I spoke with a woman today who's with a private charitable organization who said, I saw the play you did in February, and it really impressed me. Our charitable group wants to give you a contribution. I'll meet you at the snack bar of all places in Snug Harbor tomorrow, but be there at 7:30 because I rise early. Those kinds of things will happen, but right now, again, we were caught, as the town was, shorthanded, and so what I'm asking is for 1 year.
So I think everyone here, feels we want to help.
Yeah.
At the same time, our concern would be setting a precedent for other organizations that we help as well.
Well, I anticipated that question, Bryant. And I guess my question is, if they needed it as badly as we do, then they probably had the opportunity to be here also. I don't know what their financial situation is. I don't know what their fundraising capability is. We know we have to gear ours up. For Welcome House right now, it's a major issue for us. I wouldn't be here otherwise. As far as will I ask for it next year, I have no problem if you approve it and say this is a one-time only deal, regardless of who's a director of Welcome House. We're never going to do this for them again. As far as other organizations go, I can't speak to that because I don't know what their financial condition is. You all know, up until July, we were still anticipating that community development block grant money was going to come into the town. So that's like, you work for an employer, and an employer says to you, listen, I'm deferring your paycheck, but you are going to get it. And then you find out we're insolvent, we can't pay you. So suddenly you're on your own. It takes you a little time to remobilize. I mean, if you have some suggestions of some rainy day money that may be around instead of doing this, or some alternative.
On that list for that rainy day fund.
I mean, I think that honestly, when you get back and look at it, I know what you're saying. You can't look at, well, we gave you a grant on the one hand, we're taking it back on this end. But for me, that's really the way I have to look at it, because it's a net. And as well as it feels good to give us $10,000, if 8 of it goes back, in taxes and payment in lieu of taxes, the net result to me is 2. And 2 is 2. And you divide it by 12, it's less than $200 a month. And I mean, I know the value to the town is far greater than that.
What would the impact be if we didn't grant this tonight? I mean, I know you talk about the dire situation that you're in. I'm just curious what the...
Well, I think in most cases like this, you have to look at staffing. You got to keep the lights on, right? You got to pay your water bill. Those are not discretionary bills. And those bills are going to go up as the heating system starts to kick in. So the only place you really have to look is that. You know our administrative structure, it is thin. I pay myself 3 days a week. Helen can attest. I work more than 3 days a week. So that's where we'd have to look, quite honestly. And as I said to the board, you know, we've got a point where I feel we've got competent people there. You don't hear about the police going to Welcome House because of a disturbance. If they are there at all, they're there because maybe someone is there who needs medical attention and they're refusing to go with an EMT or something. So I think that we've built a very competent program there, and I don't want to mess with that. You certainly don't want to mess with your grant writer because you know you've got to ramp that side up. And that's really what I have. You know, I have a finance director. You don't want to eliminate that. So it's tough choices.
Yeah, the only thing I would be concerned with is just knowing that there's a plan in place to diversify where your money's coming from. As you've mentioned several times, it's extremely difficult to work with grants and to work in the nonprofit sector where you don't know where your money's coming annually, and it changes, you know, sometimes month to month depending on where the funds are coming from.
I mean, if you would like a status report, the council at 3 months out or 6 months out, I'd be happy to provide that.
I don't know. I mean, that sounds great, but that's not really what I'm getting at. I just don't want to see. I don't want to enable you to get into a bad position. We want to do we want to maximize, or I want to maximize how we can help you the best possible way. And I just want to make sure this would be targeting the best possible way to help you right now.
Right now it would, as I said to the woman, she said 7:30. I said, I'll be there at 6:30, 5:30, if that's what it takes.
And you know that we all support the Welcome House.
Yes.
One of the concerns that I have, and I think others voiced this during the work session, is a lot of people got caught up in this CDBG mess.
Yeah.
And other nonprofits who don't pay a pilot still may come to us if we set this precedent. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed if this council wanted to get together and maybe roll up our sleeves and see where there might be something that came in under bid that we had some extra funds for. But I think...
the need I have, though, is immediate. So that would be helpful, and I'd be happy to do that. But tomorrow, then I have to sharpen my pencil and say, how do we affect that? I don't have a lot of time with that.
This is a tough one.
So your tax bill technically would be due when, in terms of?
We're late, yeah. We're late. We're a month late, I think.
Steve, can you turn your mic on? I can't. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Keeps going.
I'm sorry.
Is it on now? When we deal with CDBG, we ask for $250,000 on behalf of those various agencies. We never receive that amount of money. So to assume that you're going to receive a grant when in fact the application over prior years has been that we may get a $250,000 application which gets funded at $120,000 should give pause to whether or not that money is going to be available. So there's a number of those things, Joe, that are a concern. I think we're trying to work with you, but understand the tax dollars that you're asking the council to forgive are a revenue to the town's general fund, and they're budgeted on a yearly basis, just like the taxes from the land trust or from jury, any of those other agencies that have similar arrangements with the town. I mean, it's certainly council's prerogative to take the actions that they see appropriate, but I'm suggesting that I think we have, over the years, tried to work with Welcome House as far as the taxing relationship, particularly with what the municipal cost is to service those properties, and feel that we've been, I always thought that we were being fair.
I think you're being fair too, Steve. I think with regard to the CBDG, though, I know that our request was ranked, I think, second behind Johnny Cake. So even if the town only got 120,000, I think there was a reasonable expectation that if we asked for 20, we might get 5. Would you be open to the idea of deferring it for a year? Not waiving it, but deferring it. I mean, my immediate thing now is I face the end of September with a $12,000 deficit. If I pay this 5, that's where I end up. If I can save this 5, then I'm down at 7. And if I can get some money from the charitable trust that I'm meeting with tomorrow, that can narrow the gap even some more. That can be a big difference between walking into work tomorrow and assessing who I cut their hours and making it through another payroll.
I can't imagine how difficult it must be for you to be here and to even be discussing this kind of stuff. I think before I was elected, sitting on the other side of this table was just, I thought it was as simple as just cutting a check for whatever you needed. And especially when you think about, how much do we have in our undesignated fund, or how much do we have extra from things that come in under bid. And what I've learned on this side is that it's never that simple. And I wish right now I could just cut you a check for whatever you needed. I really hope, I hope we can find a way to make this work, because I don't want to see the Welcome House have to cut staff or hours. And I think progressively you've taken some great steps in the last, few years. How long have you been there? 2 years?
Been 2.5 years. I mean, one of the things that I could do, and it's on the table, is we open the program for moms and kids.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
But we waited 2 months, more than 2 months for DCYF to come up with its payment for one of the moms there.
Right.
I could put that back up and charge rent.
I know.
I don't want to do that.
No, I know. But I'm just saying,
it's an option that has to be looked at.
So we do, the council, I imagine, has its $60,000 discretionary fund. Do we? Yeah. I personally, I'm willing to spend money out of our discretionary fund for this cause, and I think, I say that because I think it's deserving, but I also think that I've been trying to dig into this CDBG issue, and it sounds like next year it's going to be more properly managed. And there's also housing funds that are going to be made available. So a lot of the money that got sort of thrown out very easily is not going to happen again this year. So, you know, I hope some belief that money will be there next year. But I would suggest we could spend some of the council's money.
I would like to see it maybe go from the 10,000 that we gave you to 15 rather than abate the taxes. Could we allot that from the discretionary fund, an additional 5,000?
That's interesting.
6 of one, half dozen.
Right, I understand.
I mean, whether it's $5,000 as a reduction on my revenue statement or $5,000 on my expense statement, it doesn't make.
We have the 5,000 already. We have the 60,000 budgeted in the discretionary. So this would be.
What I was trying to say before is that progressively over the last 2.5 years, I feel like Welcome House has really taken some steps towards affordable housing as opposed to just transient housing or temporary, we'll house you until you can figure something out or we can figure something out. So seeing you invest in these properties and taking that step is very much in line with our commitment to affordable housing and supporting organizations that do support affordable housing. I don't think that this is something that we could do often, and I do think it sets a precedent that makes me a little uneasy. I think it's a unique situation, and I think that if Johnny Cake Center came up here and offered the same perspective or situation, I would assess it based on its merit at that time. I like the idea of increasing it from 10 to 5,000 because it almost makes it sound like we're not abating the taxes and setting that precedent, but I don't know the logistics of that. And because we have the $60,000 already budgeted, I think that that's pretty flexible for spending. So I'd be in favor of trying to find a way to make this work.
I think we all are. I'm pretty concerned about who will be standing here next asking for it. And Joe, you know.
I know. I appreciate it.
So be ready for that if that's what. And this is a tough one.
Yeah.
It's a tough one, but it will be just as tough if it's Johnny Cake or if it's Domestic Violence Resource Center.
Yeah, I agree. This isn't something to come to lightly. It's like I said, it's not as simple as, I would write a check for a dozen organizations today if I could.
I do want to remind you that you've already spent 5,000 of your 60.
Make it rain.
But this 5 will be the best well-spent 5. It'll go the longest, go the distance.
With Mercer.
That's your fault, though.
Yeah. Maybe we should take it out of your fund. I would, if nobody else wanted to add anything, I would.
I mean, it's a super tough decision to make. Part of me also feels that the Welcome House touches all of those other organizations as well. In terms of, I'm sure there are people that are in housing with Welcome House that are going to use Johnny Cake Center. They're going to use potentially Domestic Violence Resource Center. There's so many organizations that we all would like to help, and I remember having that discussion while we were going through the list of the people that were asking for money. And of course, we all would like to help as many people as possible. And there's probably some causes that are nearer to our hearts than others. But I think one of the biggest things is housing. I don't want anyone ending up in the street. I also feel that we need to help people get to the point where they can be self-sufficient. And that's one of the things I like about the Welcome House right now, is when I met with you guys, your goal is to help people go from Welcome House to living on their own.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
And the thing that makes this harder for me is, listen, if I were managing a $96 million budget and I had to agonize over $5,000, I'd be. But we're in the financial shape we're in because we do this kind of agonizing about what seems like a small amount in that big budget, but it's a big amount to you.
Yes.
I would make a motion that we appropriate the
In what way?
necessary funds to cancel out the amount that they pay in pilot taxes.
Cancel out the amount.
It's 5,076.
I would.
Plus interest.
Yes.
But we'll pay the interest, Steve.
And I just want to make the point again, if I had the Johnny Cake Center up here today or Domestic Resource Center, any of those organizations that came here, I would give it the same thoughtful consideration that I would for this. And I think this is a unique situation. You've assured us this is a one-time thing. And I think we're part of a community that expects their town to take care of businesses like the nonprofits like the Welcome House when they're in these situations. It's hard, and I hope that we can rally behind you and help you get wherever you need to with your fundraising goals. I would definitely support this.
So are we going to take the 5,000 and change from the fund and increase what we allotted from 10,000 to 15,000, or are we going to abate the taxes?
Why don't you let Trish decide how she wants to manage it?
Okay.
Hopefully this can be useful in going to other towns and asking for money. I don't know if you've already approached other town councils or not, but hopefully you do.
Tested the waters here.
Yes. Not easy, is it? But now.
No, it's not. But I know that you have a tough decision. I knew that coming in here, that, you know, that question about precedent is obviously a pressing one. And if I were in your shoes, I'd be.
I like the idea of
concerned about
deferring it, but I think that just kind of kicks the can down the street.
Right.
And just, I guess, one more comment. I would be, if we're apt to do this, I would be more in favor of taking it from the council's discretionary fund than abating any taxes. I just think it's.
I think it should be a one-time payment made to them so that they can then make the tax payment to the town.
Absolutely.
That way, we're not changing the contribution level to the organization, and it stays at the same base level that was approved in March.
And the revenue statement is the same.
Okay.
So that means the motion is that the $5,077 comes from the council's contingency fund.
Yes. So I amend my motion to be that.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you very, very much on behalf of the whole organization. Thank you.
Good luck. All right, that brings us to item 8C, a communication dated September 5th, 2017 from Tony Silbert, Vice Chair of the Sustainability Committee, seeking town funding up to $1,000 to host a sustainable SK forum. It's received and placed on file. And what do we want to do with it? I do not believe there's any representative from the...
I don't think there is. I would recommend that one of us reaches out to the committee in terms of finding other ways that we can help them, rather than giving them a $1,000 check to have an event. And it could be as simple as that. It's a fairly new committee. They're probably not aware how we don't normally give money out for committees to have events.
Agreed. So
There are a couple of concerns in the memo that we received from staff, and another concern was holding an event as their regular meeting, not on town property, potential open meetings issues, potential handicap accessible issues, those kind of things. So I agree with staff's direction on that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that they could do is if they found someone in town or an organization that wanted to help with sustainability, they could have the event and then invite the people from the committee to the event.
I think it's awesome to see this kind of enthusiasm coming from the group, though.
Right.
You know, they're trying to think outside the box.
Tony's very enthusiastic.
Oh, I've just ran into him the other day, and I'm happy to see him involved. But I do think I agree with Joe's concerns and staff's concerns about open meeting laws and accessibility and all those things. So I hope that they continue this enthusiasm and don't see it as a deterrent. But I agree, somebody should intervene and just see if there's another way we can support them.
I'd be happy to reach out to them in that regard.
Thanks, Abel.
So do I hear a motion to place that on file?
Place 8C on file.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. Item 8D is a resolution adopting a proclamation recognizing September 2017 as Military Suicide Awareness Month.
Oh, you skipped.
Did I skip a page?
Yeah.
Comments?
Oh, geez. Sorry about that, everybody.
Comments from Mr. Sitzik?
Oh, yeah. There we go. Item 9 is comments from interested citizens. If there are any.
You're up.
Excuse me for
I'm
jumping.
sorry I made you
My
go.
hearing's not like it was. My concern is, I don't know if there is an ordinance or not, but yesterday brought it to a head. I've been going to come, I just haven't. The amount of parking on or across the sidewalks in town. Yesterday I'm coming back from the recreation center after dropping my granddaughter off. There's a car parked on the sidewalk on Broad Rock Road. Very narrow road. A lady was coming with 2 children in a stroller. They saw her coming. They didn't move the car. She had to walk out in the road. There's only sidewalks on one side, and it's that way. Woodruff Avenue, Columbia Street, River Street, Weather Vane, Broad Rock. They park and they block the sidewalks. And there's outside of Columbia Street, there's only sidewalks on one side of the road. They put a sign up on, finally, within the last year, I've only noticed it, over on Woodruff. But they still park on the sidewalks. Part of it's because some of the sidewalks are not too much above the road grade. But I can't believe there is not an ordinance on blocking the sidewalks or parking on sidewalks.
Yeah.
There is a prohibition about parking on sidewalks. In fact, the Woodruff Avenue one has been a difficult issue that we've dealt with the property owners on several occasions. What we can do is to provide notice to the police department and request that they take notice and, if necessary, either educate or ticket the vehicles. So we can attempt to do that. We normally would enforce that ordinance based on a complaint basis rather than unless we saw an unsafe situation. And what you're talking about, Mr. Brown, is something that we would want the police patrols to be looking at.
2 or 3 other places. It's not an occasional occurrence. It's repeatedly. But there is no.
Well, there is an ordinance that prohibits parking on a sidewalk over a curb. So yes, we could take steps as far as issuing a parking ticket.
Between River Street and Columbia Street, that's the direct route to the high school.
There's no parking on any sidewalk. I mean, it would be. There's no parking on any sidewalk that would be allowed because you're restricting pedestrian access. The question would be, the police department would need to see the violation and be able to address the violation in terms of either issuing a ticket or getting the person to move the vehicle, or both. But I will.
If I called in, they would take care of it.
If you called in, the police department would investigate it and send an officer to look at that. We'll do it for you, Coach.
I thank you.
Thank you. Nobody better be parking on High Street, let me tell you that.
All right. Any other public comments?
Abel, I actually had something I wanted to say. I was at the ribbon cutting for High Street the other day with the town staff, and it was wonderful. And living off of High Street, I am so excited to see it done. So I just wanted to offer kudos to everyone who was involved with that. It was a labor of love that took many, many, many years to happen. So I'm super happy to see that. And I know I'm not the only one. I also wanted to make a statement about the subcommittee that Bryant and I are part of for the school committee for the facilities study, or the legacy plan as it's been renamed. So since the discussion first began about the facility study last year, myself and other members of this council have been actively engaged in the process. And at the invitation of the school committee and the superintendent, Brian and I volunteered to be part of that subcommittee. aptly named the Contract Compliance Subcommittee. We serve on it with Roland Benjamin, Scott Miller, Marion Crawford, and Steve Alford also attends the meetings. And since its creation in June, we've had 2 meetings. Once was in June and once was just last week. Although I welcome the opportunity to offer my input and ensure the process remains fair and equitable, I have raised some concerns via email and in person to group members over the last few months, and I just wanted to make sure I shared them publicly here for anybody that was following along and interested. Just as a reminder, the town council, in serving in the capacity on this subcommittee, has no authority to vote on anything or expend any funds towards this process. We can't decide to fire somebody or spend money in any certain way. Responsibility lies solely with the school committee. And I think we're there to provide some checks and balances and also ultimately to share the burden of the outcome of a really difficult and sometimes emotional process for the community. Since the very beginning, I've had some reservations, and I've raised them about the demographic study presentation, the visioning session that we had, and Robert has been extremely responsive via email right away to any concerns that I had, yet I don't find that I'm getting the substantive answers that I need to my questions. Last week it was brought to my attention that focus groups were being formed and the scheduled times to meet were at 8 in the morning and 12 in the afternoon during the week. And many parents, myself included, felt that excluded people with traditional work schedules with children in school. Robert has assured me that anybody who wishes to be a member of the process should reach out to him via the website or to Marianne Crawford, or furthermore, get in touch with any of us, and we could put you in touch with the right person, because he wants everybody who wants to be engaged to be part of it and feel that they have the opportunity to offer their input. It also came to my attention last week that focus groups were formed by delegating that task to school principals, and many of those principals delegated that task then to the PTOs or certain engaged parents. Some schools cast a really wide net by sending out robocalls and emails and notices home. Others simply asked somebody to find 12 or 15 people that were interested. To me, that demonstrates an inequitable process where well-intentioned but otherwise underqualified individuals are selecting these focus groups. If it were as simple as asking principals to form the focus groups for us, I'm sure the school committee would have pursued that as opposed to hiring somebody and spending $140,000 on this study that we're hoping is going to be objective, nonpartisan evaluation of our educational and facilities needs in the community. So although I'm dismayed by some of these setbacks in this process, this statement doesn't serve to spoil the waters, so to speak, as we move towards community engagement. Instead, I want everybody to know that there are checks and balances in place, that I will continue to bring any concerns that are brought to me forward, both publicly and privately, if someone wants to reach out, as they have over the last few weeks. And everybody involved is going to take every step necessary to ensure an equitable and fair, objective process. And I hope that this update kind of serves as a call to action for people to engage, because there are so many opportunities to engage, and this will never produce a fruitful result or anything that we can use if we don't have people engaging and holding us accountable and asking at every step of the way, what's happening, why is it happening, how can I be part of it? So that's the update that I wanted to provide and the statement that I wanted to make, and I hope that if anybody has any questions, that they will go to the Legacy website. There's an email right on there. Those emails go directly to Robert, and certainly through the town website, you can reach out to any of the town councilors or the school committee members and share your concerns.
Thank you. The only thing I would add to that is that I think everyone, in terms of the town council and the school committee members that are on that committee, have voiced, concerns, and that's what we're there for. I don't think anyone's there's no one sitting there just letting Robert do what he wants. I think one of the things I was surprised by was the video. I think you and I had talked about that. We wish we would have known about the video prior to it being released, because the school committee knew about it and we didn't really know about it. And personally, that's not what I expected the video to be. No. When I looked at the video, I figured it looked like everything was fine. Yeah. So the truth is that everything isn't fine, and the purpose of the road that we're going down is to fix the process, the system, to make sure that children get the best possible education.
Absolutely.
Any further comments from the public? Just one thing we got in the mail is an invitation to take part in the South Kingstown Firefighters Memorial Parade, which is coming up on September 24th. So great chance to get the kids out there and enjoy some fire trucks. I guess that...
I think the other thing on that was it's the 150th anniversary of the Peacedale... what is it called?
Peacedale Narragansett Steam Fire Engine Company. All right, I think that brings us to the town manager's report.
I've gone over all of the items that I had to discuss with the council, either through the agenda itself or in the pre-session. I'd be glad to answer any questions council may have on any of those issues.
I had a couple things I forgot to bring up in the work session. One is I heard a complaint, and I experienced this myself, but on 108 by the Peacedale Mills, the visibility is getting pretty bad where you take that right over the bridge and you go over whatever, that must be the part of the Saugatucket there.
The mill itself coming toward Welcome House?
Going south on 108, yeah. As you know where that, was it North Road comes in, that intersection? The chain link fence there and the brush is growing pretty high, so it's hard to see the...
Okay, I'll have Public Works take a
Yeah.
look at it. I think all of that's probably on private property there.
Okay.
And it's on a state highway, so let's take a look and see what we can accomplish with it.
Okay. And then the other thing is there were a number of people from the immigrant, the group that's concerned, the ACLU and other groups.
Michael was going to
I was
address
actually
that.
going to address that in my solicitor's report. I can do that now. So I've been working pretty closely with the chief and the manager. What I'm doing, and it'll be ready for your agenda on the 25th. I mentioned that to Liz. I was going to tell the whole council tonight anyhow, so that'll definitely be on your agenda. Redlining both the resolution and the ordinance so you can see what it looked like and what my suggestions are. You'll have all that in front of you along with a memo from me on it.
Thank you.
Would it be after that we would potentially have a public hearing, correct? Okay.
Right, so depending, if you go the route of a resolution, that doesn't require, the same format as an ordinance. Where I'm leaning right now is a very beefed up resolution instead of the ordinance, but I'll present all of that to you.
Mike, didn't we already pass a resolution?
Yes, you passed one in March, and what I've done is, based on the ordinance, which had some other items in it, is I basically beefed up the resolution, making it stronger in certain respects. So I thought it would be good for you to be able to see what the changes were that I'm suggesting versus actually adopting the ordinance.
Thank you.
All right, well, do we have any appointments to make tonight? I don't believe so. I didn't see any. All right, then to new business. Item 13C is a resolution directing staff to prepare an application for the 2017 Solarize RI program, authorizing the town manager to execute the same. The town manager is further directed to transmit the application to the Rhode Island Office of Energy Resources in advance of the September 25th, 2017 deadline, further described in a memo from the Director of Planning to the town manager.
We had great success in the initial year, as noted in the memorandum from Director of Planning on this. We would support putting that application in and hopefully being able to participate again in 2017.
Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve agenda item 13C.
I'll second that with my enthusiasm. I know a lot of people have asked me about it, and I think they'll jump at the chance to participate again.
All right, so moved. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries unanimously. Item 13D, finally, get here, is a resolution adopting a proclamation recognizing September 2017 as Military Suicide Awareness Month in the town of South Kingstown. This reads as follows. Whereas family matters, support matters, and every military veteran matters, this September, Suicide Prevention Month encourages veterans and their loved ones to focus on the things that give life meaning, the things that matter. Anyone who knows a veteran can help. And whereas whether a veteran has just returned home or served years ago, their experiences remained with them. Their wounds might not be visible, but they need our attention. We can support veterans who are dealing with challenges of all kinds. We're in this together. And whereas the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs urges groups and individuals nationwide to stay alert for signs of suicide risk in the veterans they care about, if you're concerned about the veteran in your life, lending a hand doesn't have to be hard. Just talking about it opens the door to finding support, and the Veterans Crisis Line can help. And whereas the first step in preventing suicide is to understand the warning signs, people may show signs of risk before considering harming themselves. Warning signs include hopelessness, anxiety, agitation, sleeplessness, or mood swings, rage or anger, engaging in risky activities, increasing alcohol or drug abuse, and withdrawing from family and friends. Whereas the Veterans Crisis Line is a free, confidential resource that veterans and their families and friends can access any day, any time, trained professionals at the Veterans Crisis Line, many who are veterans themselves, are ready to listen, providing free, confidential support 24/7, 365 days a year. And whereas the VA counts on grassroots networks and community organizations to spread the word that support is just a call, click, or text away, it's up to all of us to get educated, get involved, and take action to help veterans access the support and care they deserve. Now, therefore, we, the Town Council of the Town of South Kingstown, proclaim September 2017 as Military Suicide Awareness Month in the Town of South Kingstown and request our residents to let a veteran know they are not alone and that they matter. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion that we approve item 13D. I just want to say we've got some great veteran organizations in town. Hope everybody will reach out, especially appropriate today on 9/11, to see what we can do to support our local vets.
Great. Further discussion. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries unanimously and brings us to 13E, a resolution adopting a proclamation in support of Small Business Saturday, as follows. Whereas the Town Council of the Town of South Kingstown celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community, according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are currently 28.8 million small businesses in the United States. They represent 99.7% of all businesses with employees in the United States and are responsible for 63% of new net jobs created over the past 20 years. Whereas small businesses employ 48% of the employees in the private sector in the United States, and whereas, on average, 33% of consumers' holiday shopping will be done at small, independently owned retailers and restaurants, and whereas 90% of all consumers believe that supporting small, independently owned restaurants and bars is important, and whereas 76% of all consumers plan to go to one or more small businesses as part of their holiday shopping, and whereas South Kingstown supports its local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our neighborhoods, and whereas advocacy groups as well as public and private organizations across the country have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday, now therefore we, the Town Council of the Town of South Kingstown, do hereby proclaim November 25th, 2017 as Small Business Saturday, and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve agenda item 13E.
Second.
So moved. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries unanimously. 13F is a resolution approving, as amended, the draft recruitment brochure for the position of town manager as prepared by the Mercer Group, authorizing the town council president to approve the final version.
I've given you a draft copy of the narrative that would be included in the brochure that would be developed by Mercer. The changes that had been suggested have been incorporated that I went over with the council earlier this evening. Once we have a final draft on that, I will get it back to the council. But at this point, what we'd like to do is to have the final authorization sit with the council president, so it doesn't have to come back to a council meeting. But we certainly will get all of that information to the entire council as we go forward.
Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve 13F.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion?
It's I think it's a good document that a lot of work is going into. I think it'll be very effective. I'm real interested to see the finished product with the photos and all the rest.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I did offer a few suggestions, just saying that I wanted to see some inclusion about our agricultural history in South Kingstown and about coastal erosion and environmental issues. And I don't remember what else. But
You mentioned Schneider.
and Schneider, when we talk about the large businesses in our community and our vested interest in them. So looking forward to seeing the final version. And like Joe said, it's going to be great. And this is a start of a very interesting process.
We're going to have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. 13H is a resolution authorizing the finance director to administer the changes necessary to comply with state law in regard to the motor vehicle phase-out procedure in the most cost-efficient, appropriate manner, contingent upon confirmation from the Department of Revenue that the handling of taxpayers' credits due is appropriate and consistent within the language of the law, and as further detailed in a memo from the finance director to the town manager.
As noted in the work session earlier this evening, and as articulated in the memorandum from Trish Sunderland on the subject, what we're asking council authorization to do is to give us the ability to be able to manage the motor vehicles tax in accordance with state statute. There are some issues as to how we address the tax program with the state that could have impact on the amount of tax dollars or tax relief that would be provided to the community. Until we get definitive answers from the state on the methodologies that are going to be required, we need to at least do three things. One, define what the tax was that we sent out. That's in place. Two, define what the revised role would be based on the changes in the in the state budget that was adopted in August. And three, be able to define what the rebate or refund is that each and every vehicle owner would be entitled to based on the changes made in that statute. The question is whether communities will be allowed to be able to amend their tax roll for motor vehicle taxation and be able to provide the ability for the taxpayer to determine if A, they want a refund check if they've already paid the money, or take an adjustment downward on any of the future 3/4 of their tax bill that they may be paying. Or three, have that as the credit to their 2018-19 bill. The question is arisen with the state on if we provide the credit, whether they would provide the tax relief in the to the town that we would be entitled to if the money were conveyed during the course of the 17-18 year. Until we get resolution to that, we need to have the flexibility to be able to make decisions on behalf of the town. I think, as I've mentioned to you on several occasions in the past, the town went forward with a tax roll based on tax certification that was required on June 15th of 2017 and issued bills on July 1st of 2017 in accordance with the existing state statutes. Subsequent to that, the state amended retroactively the manner in which property taxes would be collected associated with motor vehicle excise tax. The total amount that's in question as far as the revisions made by the state is in the $340,000 range for South Kingstown. There were 17 communities that withheld their tax rolls and sent out bills based on the amended budget. 22 communities went under the old system, just like South Kingstown did. However, of those 22 communities, it only represents 35% of the tax levy statewide. So we are in a minority position as far as the value of the taxes, and a majority position in the number of communities that process their motor vehicles in the same manner. Until we get a final determination on what steps will be necessary to be able to recover all of that $340,000, we're going to have to take steps in terms of dealing with the state on that manner, in that manner. And we'll go forward and keep the council advised on what steps are necessary. What we don't want to do is to be required to issue a new set of tax bills to all owners of vehicles in the community, and also issue separate checks for the amount differential between the two levy amounts. Again, the change that the state made was solely to reduce the taxable value of the vehicles by 5% from what the fair market value was established by the commission that sets motor vehicle values. We're not talking a large dollar amount here on a per vehicle basis, but it certainly would require a great deal of administrative accounting work to be able to provide for that level of detail. The simplest solution would be to provide the opportunity for the taxpayer to make their own decision on how they wanted the amount differential between the original tax bill and the modified tax bill, how they would like to receive that either as a credit or as a reimbursement or as a credit against the current year's bill. So we'll keep you advised, but I'd ask the council to approve the resolution as presented.
Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve 13H.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously and brings us to the end of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion, we adjourn?
Do I hear a second? Second. All right, we have a second. Any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. At 9:22. Who's that guy?